Hi, I'm Mike London. I'm visiting with artists and arts leaders throughout the Miami Valley, and Culture Works supports so many arts organizations and artists uh, and institutions right here in our community. And so this is our chance. All of these interviews are our chance to get to know a few of them. So today I'm speaking with Michael Roediger. Michael is the director and CEO of the Dayton Art Institute. But I'm not going to do any more introduction than that, Michael, because I want you to be able to share
Okay.
more about who you are. Because, people know, oh, they know Art Institute. And after you've been there, what, 8, 9, 10 years or so, they're going to go, oh, yeah, that's Michael. He's in charge. But not a lot of them really know you. So how did you first come to the Art Institute?
Well, I have been at the Art Institute almost 9 years now,
Okay.
and I came to the Art Institute from the Victoria Theater Association, now Dayton Live, where I was the vice president of development. But I'm a native of Dayton, born and raised. I took classes at the DAI as a kid and went to the school and in the summers. And had a love of the arts that was inspired by my parents. And as I got older, I got involved in theater in high school, and then in the community. I got a performing arts degree, and really just kind of came of age at the Victoria, and then really tried to hone my leadership skills in nonprofit arts management, and was offered the position at the DAI.
Wow. Do you remember when you were young, as you were being exposed to the arts, what was was there one thing that just really jumped out and excited you?
There were a couple of, those moments in your life that you think, oh, I want to be a part of that. And so
Yes.
certainly the classes, my dad would take me every Saturday, and some of the classes he took with me.
Oh,
My
wow.
dad was very involved. He was the president of the board when they saved the Victory Theater. And so I grew up running around that theater. And knowing the work that he did as a volunteer, I remember thinking, I wonder if you can do this as a living. And so as I got older, my parents saw that in me and really helped me to find my way in the arts. The other thing I remember about falling in love with theater is there used to be a theater series at Memorial Hall down in the basement. And
Yes.
my neighbor used to take me there. She's no longer living. I was kind of her adopted nephew. She didn't have kids, and she would take me there to those. And I thought, I want to do that. I could do that. And it just kind of all melded together. But my parents knew. They said from a young age that I would be involved in the arts somehow.
Wow. And you certainly are.
And I certainly am now. Sure.
Yeah. Wow. I wonder, so with your own family, so I know you have family. Is anybody else involved?
Um, my dad is retired from his board work, but he was on the Victoria board for 15 years.
Yeah.
And then my son loves the arts. His mom and I really made the arts accessible to him, taking him to museums, taking him to theater productions. He's not a performer, but he certainly knows when he travels, that's part of what he wants to do. Locally, he loves to go see things at the museum and at the Schuster and Victoria. It will forever be a part of his life. He just didn't choose the path that I did. As much as I tried, I had him in a lot of acting classes and kids classes, and he's more of a mathematician than an artist. So, but he certainly appreciates them.
Wow. Lord knows we need we need them too.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
you talked about there are people today, let me put it this way. There are some people today that don't know about the history of the Art Institute as an educational institution.
Right.
They think of it, and rightly so, as an incredible museum and repository for art and for that which comes through. But do me a favor. There's a couple things I want you to share with us today. One is going to be, I really want you to tell me and anyone viewing about that history as an institute. I mean, as a school, a really important one.
Right. So a lot of people don't know that the museum started as a school, and hence the name Institute and not Dayton Art Museum. And although the original name did have museum in it, but they wanted to focus on the school more. And so when the museum was built that we now know and love on the hillside, the historic building in 1930, they decided to make, or 19, we started in 1919, that building was finished in 1930. And they decided to change it to Institute to reflect both the museum side and the school side.
Yeah.
There are still many people in the Dayton region and throughout the world that got their degrees from the Dayton Art Institute. And you could get a 4-year college degree along with classes like I took as a kid, as just, general classes that young people and students could take. And it really started to change as our great education institutions in our community, UD, Sinclair, Wright State, Central State, all started having arts programs. And when they saw that happening, they focused more on the museum side and closed the school in 1974 with the last class graduating in 75. And that's not that long ago. I mean, there are working artists that went through the DAI. In fact, we lost one of the folks that was really kind of, those famous students. Gail Halderman was the designer of the classic Ford Mustang. He just passed away a couple months ago.
Yes.
And he went to the Dayton Art Institute. Jonathan Winters, who people know as a comedian and actor, is also an artist. He went to the Dayton Art Institute. So it was an important school and a really well-rounded arts education. But as the collection grew and other things grew in the community, we decided to focus on being a museum. And now our collection's upwards of 26,000 objects from around the world in an encyclopedic collection.
Yeah, and what was interesting to me is the number of people that I've spoken to over the years who were not necessarily, just as your experience, who weren't part of the Institute's curriculum, but the public classes that were available. It was a wide range.
From the very beginning, it was important that, for one, and we still believe this, that students have access that might not be able to pay for a class. So there were scholarship opportunities. It was during a time that wasn't very integrated. There were integrated classes. It was a little rarer, but it became more and more integrated as time went on through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, those classes. And it always had a focus on Dayton proper, trying to get kids from the school systems into the building, into the classes. And that was true with adult classes as well.
I'm curious because, we've talked about some of this before, but over the years, but because I know the history of all of it. Every institution goes through those big changes, and one of the big changes was the one for the Institute in '74, when the official degree granting institution had passed on, if you will. What are a couple of the other real turning points in the history of the Art Institute?
Well, I would think before that would be when Julia Shaw Patterson Carnell committed the initial funds to build the historic building that we now know and love. That was a turning point, because before then, the museum was doing classes and little exhibitions in a house downtown on Monument Avenue at the corner of Monument and Ludlow. It's now an empty lot. In fact, it's where they put tents during festivals down on Monument on Riverscape. So really that commitment by her, and that was originally supposed to go into the endowment. She, during a very difficult time, committed the money to the endowment, and then the Great Depression hit, and all of the benefactors that were building the building pulled out. And so Julia wanted the building finished and worked with the board to move those funds to complete it. So I think that was one of the most turning points, because it was that commitment to the structure. And then I think, there are collecting moments too. I mean, certainly one of my predecessors was a big collector, and he really built his name was Tom. I just lost Tom's last name. He'll come back. But he
Yes.
built the European collection, Tom Colt. And he had an eye for it. People in the 50s were moving to more modernism. And he said, this is our opportunity to build the DAI's collection. So he really worked on that. Certainly when we got the Monet, and that
Yes.
was from another director. And she asked if a gentleman that had never been to Dayton and had the piece would ever consider donating it. And he shipped it the next week. And it really was the anchor to the collection. It was something that people would come from around the world to see. And then one of the other big collecting moments was when the Ponderosa collection was acquired in the 80s, late 80s. And that literally, if you grew up in Dayton and remember Ponderosa restaurants, that was owned by the Ponderosa Corporation and built by Jerry Office. And Jerry Office wanted the collection to stay together and offered it at an incredible price to the museum.
Wow.
And it built what is now our contemporary collection, really extended it. Now we need to continue to do work, but that was a real turning point too. Fun turning point, I think people probably didn't like it, is when the zoo went away. We had a zoo from the early 40s to the mid 50s on the grounds. And I bring that up sometimes when we have to change things, that, that was a very hard decision not to have a zoo anymore. But we know today that artwork doesn't like being around birds and monkeys throwing things and koi ponds in galleries. It's just not good for the art. And it's not our mission, and probably wasn't the best way of life for those animals. So I think that's the memory that a lot of people have. And I've had people ask me, can't we have peacocks back on the grounds? And I always remind people that peacocks are pretty, but they're mean. And we don't have a lot of areas where they could roam anymore that aren't enclosed. So there's been a lot of changes over the years. But I think what's always come back to the heart of the DAI after the school closed was, how do we make the collection stronger, and how do we make the museum accessible to more and more people?
So tell me about, if you will, I know that the Institute's been in the, you just reached the 100th anniversary this past year. And there are people who drive by and see the Art Institute who've not been in it. You and I both know this.
Yes.
And I know there are some out there that have thought about it, and they look, and one of the questions that I've heard sort of meandering around, and that is about those renovations. Tell us about what how did that come about and what's going on?
So over the last several years, in preparation for the centennial, which actually just, we consider ourselves in the centennial because it crossed over 2 years. It was into February. But our big celebrations were last year. And one of the things that was one of my goals was to try and get the building back to as close as it was when we built it, if not better, because of new technology. So some of the first things we did were put new flooring in the Gothic and update all the restrooms to make them ADA accessible so that everybody can feel welcome there. Basic things like putting buttons on the gallery door so people can get through the museum if they're in a wheelchair or a walker without having to have someone there with them all the time.
Sure.
And then we really wanted to look at that front hillside. In '97, when they put the rotunda on, they moved the entrance to the back. Now, there had been an underground entrance you could go into, but they made the big formal rotunda. And really, since then, we've moved away from that historic front, and it had become pretty dilapidated. And so, first of all, we had the stairs had been chained off for 10 years that you couldn't access them, or you weren't supposed to. It's funny, I still saw a lot of pictures on the stairs. And the fountains didn't run, and the lighting wasn't working. And so through all of this, construction has been working with physical distancing to continue to work on the front of the hillside. And I just saw images. They're testing the fountains right now. It's very exciting. A lot of people don't even know because it wasn't in their lifetime. There were 2 original fountains on the building. and they're both running again. And we believe it's the first time, we can tell from photographs, that they've run probably in 55 to 60 years. So those fountains stopped
They're
running
working?
about 25. Where are they?
They're
They're on,
working?
they're working. They're being tested right now and running.
Oh my goodness, Michael, I've never seen them work.
Yeah, they're absolutely stunning. The sound is beautiful. I think it's going to be something when people are walking the grounds, or they're
Oh,
walking the
wow.
river, that they're going to come up and want to visit the fountains. And we were able to do those fountains thanks to a donation from a local family. The stairs have all been repaired now. Now the stairs aren't all the way open yet, because
Sure.
we still have some things we have to do at the base, but the stairs are open. We just dug the trenches to put the new beautiful lighting on the building. It will be all lit in LED, and we'll be able to change it to respond to things that are happening in the community, like Pride Month, or
Sure.
Cancer Week or month, and even change it for corporate and wedding events, if people want to have the building lit a certain color.
That's great.
So we are hoping by the end of fall that we'll be able to be together a little bit more than we are now, and have some form of a dedication out of the stairs, on the stairs, that will be able to thank all the people that helped make it possible. It's really going to be something. Like I said, we're not quite there. The driveway has to be done. City of Dayton is putting in an apron at the front and taking out that continual turn, because it's dangerous, and trying to make the road a little narrower there.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really like a park-like setting. Beautiful landscaping is coming. So that all came through donations and state money. And then the next phase, which has been going on a little bit while we've been closed due to COVID, is that the galleries are being all renovated. So, and it's not just new paint, it's new signage, which has been something people have told me for years. Your labels are peeling, and I knew that, but replacing them is not cheap. And so we put in a new label system where we can move things out, in and out. They won't peel off the wall. We locally source them right here in Montgomery County. And we are happy to get those installed. It will be new interpretation, new paint colors, some new things added as we go along. So I think people are going to have, over the course of this rest of the year, and probably because of COVID going in the next year, a new experience in a lot of the galleries. They're going to see some things they haven't seen on view. We'll have more spaces in the galleries for rotating art. So what we hope is it encourages people to come and see change more often in the gallery. So, and that's all, again, been through private donations to the Centennial, and to state funding, which, the way the economy's been with COVID, we don't know that there'll be much state funding for a while. So we're really glad that we were able to get some of that to help upgrade the museum.
So let's talk about that just for a minute. I know we're recording all of these during the COVID pandemic, and we're not quite as in the early stages as we are. We're in June right now, and we're doing this now because of the. I'll just put my little plug in here for the Montgomery County Culture Works campaign that we try to really encourage employees to help support the arts. But I've talked to so many, as you can imagine, artists and arts leaders in all the different disciplines, and it's having an impact, of course, on the arts, just like it is every other aspect of society. But depending upon the organization, it's having more of a severe impact or more of a unique impact. How's it impacting the DAI?
Well, and it's interesting you put it that way. That's one of the reasons why I think Culture Works has always been important, but is more important than ever. That we come together for a collective for the arts. We're projecting that it's going to affect the DAI about $1 million loss this year of only a $5 million budget. So that's significant.
Yeah.
And that's due to a lot of things. We were fortunate that we got some of the Federal CARES Act money to hold on. It was important to try and keep staff employed, and we've been able to do that. We only furloughed our part-time people. But as I've said to my staff, I don't have a crystal ball. We have to see where this thing goes. And when we're able to start to see things happening again. We're very uncertain about our signature events. Art Ball's date's already passed, Bourbon and Bubbles already passed. We've held dates in the fall, but it's becoming more and more unlikely that we're going to be able to do those things. We've still held our dates for Oktoberfest, but when you see festivals all over being canceled because you can't have many people there, the economics don't work out. So
Right.
we're holding dates, but working on virtual experiences in hopes that people will support that way. I have said over and over from the beginning, we're excited when we're able to open, and it's looking like it's probably going to be that weekend after July 4th, that we can bring people through and social distance them. We can take them, a certain amount of people, into our special exhibition. So we can have about 200 people in the building at any one time. So we can keep that flowing. I'm really concerned, and I'm concerned about us. I don't want people to hear that. But as a collective, I'm concerned about our colleagues in the performing arts.
Yes.
And as a former performer and someone that worked in performing arts, you can't bring people in to an audience and social distance them and make the numbers work. You can't pay for a Philharmonic or a Broadway show or a dance company if you have in the Schuster, which holds what, almost 3,000 or 3,200, and only have 300 people. It just doesn't work. You can't pay for it, and then you can't make the money on it. So I'm worried about that. I mean, we have talked, and again, that's why we're so thankful to CultureWorks and Montgomery County, because our community gets how important the arts are. And that we may not have mountains and we may not have oceans, but we've got this really amazing cross section of artists and arts organizations, from the opera to the ballet to Broadway, to one of the most renowned contemporary dance companies in the country, DC, to an internationally recognized art museum, and then great little galleries and working artists creating art. Slam poetry and metaphorically speaking. I mean, we're just really blessed. And we have an economic impact. So just the DAI alone, we annually do about an $8 million impact economically for the community. You put all those together, we're a big piece of the pie and an economic driver. So you had mentioned when we first started about how this is affecting, restaurants and retail and businesses and small businesses.
Yep.
Arts are no different. We employ a lot of people. We are part of the quality of life. And so it's important that people invest in things like CultureWorks so that we can have those grants that are certainly not going to cover everything, but they're a big part of it. I mean, we have been really grateful. The Dayton Art Institute is really relatively new to receiving funds from CultureWorks. It's only been in the last couple of years.
Sure.
But it's been an impact to us, and it's a generous gift that we couldn't receive if it weren't for all of the corporations that participate with CultureWorks and the donors and organizations like Montgomery County that really take the arts seriously and appreciate it.
Well, it's an interesting time. Goodness, may you live in interesting times. We've heard that many times.
Absolutely, and they certainly have been interesting for us. We've been trying to keep a lot of stuff going and keeping people engaged. We're going to be rolling out. We decided not to do summer camps. We know some of our colleagues in other museums are, but we decided not to, and that there's a lot of programming that we're going to put out there free to the public in hopes that others will say, well, that's worth investing in, or I better take a membership because that was nice that they presented that. We've tried to keep virtual things happening online for engagement all along. It's
So,
hard to have the performing arts without being there.
oh yeah, absolutely. So if I'm watching this and I go, you know what, I want to know, I'm curious what they are doing. Where would I go online?
So our website is DaytonArtInstitute.org, really easy. We're on Facebook, just like our page and you'll get all the information. So we're on Instagram, Twitter, all those major ones. And that's where we're feeding everyone. And you can sign up to get e-blasts from us so that you know what's happening. And just going online and exploring, you'll find a lot of the connections to upcoming online events, and information about when we reopen, all that kind of thing. So DaytonArtInstitute.org.
Great, great. Michael, thank you so much for this. For everybody who's watching, I want you to remember that Culture Works, this is an organization that benefits, your contributions to Culture Works benefit the Art Institute as well as a wide variety of artists and arts organizations. The impact that the arts have on this community are significant and in so many ways indispensable. Now is the time, if you're so willing, to be able to give to Culture Works. You can find out about Culture Works by going on the internet to cultureworks.org. It's that simple. You can also find them on Facebook under Culture Works here in Dayton. So I encourage you to go there. You'll learn about all the advantages of becoming a member and the discounts that you get to dining and the discounts to the arts organizations and a wide variety of benefits. But now is just as important a time as it's ever been to help support the arts, and Culture Works is one of the best ways to be able to do that. Michael, it's so good to see you again. I don't know when we'll get a chance again, but when we do, hopefully we can do a face-to-face or a mask-to-mask kind of thing.
It's good to see you too. And again, thanks to all the Montgomery County employees and Montgomery County and Culture Works. We appreciate you and everything you're doing. So thank you.
Well, this is great. Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch soon. Take care.